I always keep coming back to the themes of race, gender and identity, and just how those themes all intersect. Like, what does it mean to be a woman of colour? Those are the sorts of questions that I'm interested in unpacking. And I think that's absolutely influenced just by my first-hand lived experience and my parents' experience as Chinese migrants in Australia. I guess there's two aspects of things that inspire me. Like, the first is that when I see inequality in the world, and I'm just like, how can this be? And I want to change something about that. For me, it's through writing, because that's the best way that I'm able to articulate and communicate my thoughts. And the other is, I guess, seeing people doing things that actually create positive change, or making work that's quite transgressive and new and fresh. And it's like, for me, it's inspiring because it's like, oh, I didn't even know that these things were possible. And that makes me driven to make more work.
I want you three to pace run restaurants.
All right, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what's your ancestry? Are you North English, Scottish, or Irish?
Oh, you know, I'm mostly Irish.
Oh, do you eat a lot of potatoes at home?
Yeah, so Mish, you could probably lead into that, like, like you know you were f***ing with him.
Yeah.
So do you eat a lot of potatoes at home? Huh? Why am I passionate about what I do? The main reason is because I want to connect with other people through my work. And that's because when I was growing up, I just felt so isolated and alone. I grew up on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, in a town called Kawana. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and most of my siblings are a fair bit older than me. You know, after my parents split up, some of my siblings went to live with my dad, and then myself and some of my other siblings stayed with my mum. And so I think from when I was about 8 or 9 years old, it was just like me and my mum in a house that was built for 7 people. The Sunshine Coast in the 90s was not the most ideal place to live if you were a minority person, and especially if you're an Asian person. I really grew up in that period when One Nation and Pauline Hanson and their whole racist rhetoric was super popular and it was gaining ground. And like, our neighbours had One Nation placards on their front lawns, and we'd get people yelling stuff like China and go back to where you came from and rice from their cars. And so I grew up witnessing that from like 5 years old onwards. So I very much just felt like that was Australia, and it was just a really odd concept in my mind to know that you were born and belong to a certain country, but then other people tell you that you don't belong there. So it's sort of like, I don't actually know where I fit in. So I just have the experience of, you know, just wanting to connect with people who didn't look like me. All of my friends were white. Connecting with people who didn't really understand our family and were quite discriminatory towards us. And I think as well, when I was in high school and I developed alopecia, that was just like another compounding factor on top of being like a young Asian girl living in regional Queensland. So my whole life has been about combating that sense of loneliness and then helping other people feel less alone. So I actually had little bald patches when I was a baby, and then it didn't really show up again until I was in my first year of high school. Very conveniently, at the time when you want to be perceived as attractive to other people. I think what happened with me was that I went through a really stressful year-long period of being very, very anxious when it all started falling out. And I think I lost all of it within the space of maybe like 6 months. And then I went through periods of having patches and then them growing back. And then I lost it all again. And it got to the point where I didn't give up so much as I just couldn't be bothered putting myself through hoping for something to happen again. So I think I've been fully bald for maybe 4 or 5 years now. It has influenced my work in a massive way. Like, in a lot of ways, I'm quite grateful that it happened because it sort of exposed me quite early to the fact that things like gender and beauty and femininity are all just man-made concepts. Like, it became so evident to me because the moment I lost my hair, like, I felt like the exact same person, but everyone treated me so differently. Like, they either pitied me or like they were scared of me or they just avoided me entirely, which was just baffling to me because I was like, nothing has actually happened inside. Like, it's just what's happening on the outside and it's just the shell of me that you're seeing. So that was something I learned at quite a young age, and I guess that was a blessing in a lot of ways because it made me more critical of the world around me and more able to deconstruct things. In that way, it was very helpful professionally. Yeah, I think if I went back, I wouldn't want to change anything, even though it's been really hard.
Miss Law, this is your call to the stage. Your call to the stage, please, Miss Law.
For creators who are feeling quite marginalised and isolated, my advice to them would be to stand up for yourself and your work because nobody else will do that for you unless you're very lucky and you have great allies. It's really important to find your tribe, whether that's people who share sort of the same passion and ethos as you or just other allies who are willing to support you. And just be kind to people because if you're marginalised and you're working in the arts, you know what it's like to be on the outskirts, so it's just best to treat others the way that you'd want to be treated.